Okay, we're obviously in a different space line, a high center and position of track lines. It's all calculated and modified to its system locations. So it's really, really bright in that location setting of glowing mechanism line rotation of surface, track communication to its systems to a 30,000 line to my next T,000 line position. See, everything's glowing, right? I even have the blinds down. See, when you put the blinds down, where does the light come from? Inside you. Look, it's glowing. Everything's glowing. So I had to change the space because they're doing maintenance in the community setting locations outside, right? So I don't want to have the weed whacker while I'm on, my live. So in that set location system. So there's all levels of different distractions that you guys come across in set positions. All right, so in that track communication line directions, we come into high volume. Now, high volume means really understand how to use the ground lines, the rotation surface and track line communications, right? So we come into levels. The projection line streamlines is a two-line center. Okay, so now you can't see it, right? See? See how it's glowing? So I have to darken the streamlines. Okay, so you can actually see a set location to a system. Okay, do you see that now? But there's a space in between. You know why there's a space in between? Right? To understand the communications, understand what it is in set location line setting. Okay, in directions. So there's a reason why you cross your T's and I's in set locations. Remember that. Punctuation. Setting direct signals and high center interference. Travel calculation line and direct signal in position of track line. There's a reason why it's like that. To you, it's off center. To me, it's balanced. Because it's all set lines into communication to its setting in track communications. So in that track communication line, there's also a space there. There's a reason why there's space there, because the moon comes in direct location to its settings in direct system. Now there's a space above line rotations. There's always a space in between, okay? Until you understand its positions of balance and its location to its system, the track communications. So the track lines are head line high interference. The moon line rotates its surface and a ground line rotation line setting in direct signal in set locations. Okay. Now in the symbolism line centers, we change the magnetic line stream. The center position location changes the ground line center cloud line rotation surface. This triangulates high lines and high center interference of traffic communications. So in that direct signal, it's schematics of a cloud line. Each one has a dimensional door there, and there, right? 4-dimensional door lines. Now, the process of communication is really understand how to set positions to your settings, okay? It comes out as signal and highest set location of travel lines and direct signal into location to a system. Okay, there's a space there, right? So the space line setting. So we close it up in rotation, sets the energy field, direction of time sequence, puts position of plateaus and correlation line directions. Space anomalies comes into its own track communication of balance. Okay? Now, the center position location comes in that sun. The sun comes into the opposite line directions and center lines of rotation centers. Calculates modification, its high center interference of its dimensional door lines to stream locations, walking surface and set location of travels. So in that direct line center, we set a obstacle line setting and rotation surface and set location of travel settings. Okay, it walks the surface line stream. Now, in that direct signal line interference, the ground of the conscious line stream location is one valve line stream. See the valve line? Now, the rotation line interference sets a communication center of operations surface. So it's kind of like Legend of Zelda, going through one-dimensional door, find a dimensional line setting. No, can't go there. Got to back up here. Let's go. No, can't go that way. Travel communication out through equation. See? Out through equation line setting. Takes the track lines and high center interference. Mechanisms high center line position on track communications out through equation lines of center position. Now, in that track communication line centers, the metric stream changes line communications. Center lines of 0 and 0 operation of 3 triangulation line sets in high position locations. Right? That operates a system in triangular positions. All levels of high calculation, right? Time stamps. A right set of timelines and high center interference and travel communication with settings. Now that's going to signal out high center lines and position of force line communications. Look at my face; it's glowing so fast. It's, I look like it's looked like a a closet line center line interference in position of a cluster that opens all communication line signature patterns. Look at my shirt, it's glowing. Everything is glowing, right? Because it's a different atmosphere. So the space anomaly sets lines of communication line settings, right? So it's in direct location of one line signature, okay? 2 lines tracks, 3 line provisions, right? So you have to extend the 1 line setting into 2 lines into 3 line track communications, so directions. This opens up signals in 2 panels in center location of 3 lines and 1 signal line rotation in the sun of communication setting and direct signal. Now, in that set line high interference sets position location to 1 setting location to a system of capsule. Capsule lines at streamlines high center interference. The plateau line rotates at center line interference. 3 sets line position location and travels in communications of directions. This directs the signals, crosses streamlines and high center. Now, the direct line centers we bring in the XC1000, 2 lines of generation stream locations, right? Center lines is communication, lands and plateau, rotation lines and fluctuation and flux capacitor. Okay, looks like Jetsons, right? So the center position location comes into your pyramid line. The rotation surface calculates its high center interference, the travel calculation setting, directing signals, and 3 panels of operation of 3 signature line streams. Now, in that direct signal, we operate the signal line height positions. So this opens up the optical line stream in position location of 3 and 4 and 5 set location of settings and directions. Now, in that direct line center line interference, we take line communications into the elixir, 1 streamline setting, 1 surface line rotations, coming in calculation settings, and a 4-track communications of directions. Now, in that direct signal line interference, we set up high position locations of structure lines, streaming its set location of settings and directions, high interference. In that communication line interference, we set up position location of track lines in position to its atom of a rotation surface and 5 generation location of streamlines of light communication. Okay, look how powerful that is to the future adaptation. That's my equation. So data streams is for giant data. Yeah. Setting track interference. You have to really understand how it platitudes its location center and all position of communication to its systems. It generates its light streams, guys. Okay. So we all have to understand how to volume this and all position of calculations to its settings. Keeping aware of this and calculations to its conjunction opens high center line and rotation to its settings and high set positions, right? Look at that. Look at my face line. It's pretty well. Look at that. It changes lines of communication. See? It directs its signals. See? How it goes into blue. See? See how it's blue? See how that goes back to white, right? But look at that. Look at the glowing line setting. Look how powerful it is. And the blinds. The blinds are down. It's all illumination line graphs. So in center communication line settings, every time you guys go to school, you see the future adaptation in your systems due to position location track lines. All right, this is 50 million years in the future. So we all understand how the center lines of communication and ground lines at one level. And that level opens up its operation surface. Now the triangulation line sets line position locations into 1 valve. That's 1 line calculation of ground lines into my line. Correlations of directions is the coordinates of positions of pi. It redirects signal to its location system. All right, so that's going to travel out. Okay, now signal line centers, high rotations, 1 center. Position of track communications, right? Single lines of center and position of 1. Single lines of center and positions of 1. It's not a circle in set location. It's not a 0. It's a singular line center into 1. So in that direct signal, the platitude line rotation is its equal line calculation setting and direct signal set locations. Now, the position location is its perimeters. What's above is what's below. Okay? So you have to understand how to line its communication to its line setting, outline its communication surface and set locations. Now, the generation line stream sets position to 1 atom, sets position location to 2 lines, and 3 position location to a system of travel settings. Okay? Now, directing the line center and high interference is the 3 positions of panels, equal line calculation setting, and line center line interference of travel communications of directions. Now, directing signals comes in line setting and all position to locations. Now, this implicates the high center line interference in position of the sun. The center lines its position of track lines and higher position line calculation setting, and 4 measures of correlation setting and direct signal and direct line position location operation center into all calculation modification to its system, and triangulations to high calculation line setting of a face recognition of time sequence that puts a position location of pi line generation line interference and direct signal to its position line track lines of communication line settings and all position of track communications in set position to its operation surface and center communication. Done by equation. Okay, so the electrical valve lines and the streamlines of set location line center is now at 1 ground line setting. Okay, this is code weighting lines of your high calculation centers, right? Scanning line rotation. See the light signature stream, right? Crossing over line setting, that's scanning. So it's scanning the line set line and connection to hardware lines. 1 tether position of 1 practical line rotation. Center calculation line settings and direct signal. Crossing signals, line directions, and all levels of line interference. You look really, really close, you can see the connections of crevice line stream locations and the line rotation. Indirect signal set location settings. Seeing the perimeters of parameter lines and the dimensional line slots the system locations in its direct location setting. How you use calculation modifications to the other side of position attraction. So directing signals is all calculated modified, right? How you see your perceiving line streams. So we come into position location of cloud lines, into cluster line rotation surface and directions, right? Center lines is calculations into 1 energetic dome line stream location. Directed signals into center lines. This opposite system location and triangulation high positional coefficients of point systems. Now, directing line centers is all electrical lines of weaving, code activation, line interference, routers and routers, sets position location to your system. So this correlates to set location of travel lines. Now, directing line centers, you have 0 lines of rotation. Okay, 1 position location centers, all right? These are routers, and like calculation settings and high center interference of tone communication and setting of directions, all right? So if you look at this, this is the bottom of the UFO. Now, in that line rotation interference comes in this location. This is the top. Okay? So you're actually seeing the actual line center laser directions. Setting signals in the high center interference is traffic calculation setting. Directing the line panels and line interference is a timeline streamline in 1 line set locations. Now, position locations of 2 panels, 2 wing line sectors. Correlation setting direct signal to a Stargate position of portal. Open signals and position attractions. Now, directing line centers has a cost of communication line directions. This opens up position locations into its center lines. So it crosses line streamlines and set location of travel settings. Okay? Now, indirect line centers, routers and routers. So position location. So it's like a telephone number, but you put your finger in the hole and you rotate it. So it's all cross-line signal. Now with correlation line settings, travels lines high center interference pi, position of track communication of 2 lines, 2 tethers lines and 1 ground line, calculation line position location of ozone layer, and 1 central line communications, and 3 perimeters and a line rotation to its center line positions that opens all signal to its crop circle location. Okay? Now in that direct signal line interference, the center communication changes the correlations of time, and then high center interference direct the signals in the opposite direct location setting in direct line rotation to a system of opposite location setting directions. Okay? So we scan again. Okay, so we have 1 valve line, electrical line stream. Directing line signals the center position location operation line surface. Correlations of setting direct locations into position location of face view. Rotation line center line calculations 1 electrical line stream. Line rotations into 2 lines, stream lines calculations in 2 positions of 2 tethers. The rotation surface sets position of track lines into your flywheel, correction of time sequence, in 1 ground center, high calculation streamline communication system into its hardware, a mechanism line calculation setting of controlling mechanism line interference of your adapters and correlation setting and direct signals to your chargers. Now the charger mechanism line setting opens up communication to its setting. This opens up all surface location to your positions. So remember, you guys are just in the ground line setting, high position of travel lines. Now the recognizing your routers and routers, we change position location of track lines. So that's 94 line settings, high position location line calculation setting coming to 94. Okay, so your 94 line set location, 2 lines of solar generation lines, 3 set location setting into the sun of operation surface. Now, in that direct line center, we take the 9 line setting and position location yin and yang, process line stream location setting directions. Now, in single lines, high position locations, the singularity lines its communication solar generation line stream and set position location and 3 set location of travel lines. Directing line centers, high interference. Now, this is line connecting high interference to south. Equal line calculation setting, equal line inner rotations into pi calculation streamline. In vector, line position location of velocity into 1 atom line rotations, into 2 lines high center interference of atom line rotation, 3 central line units, position of 4, line calculations of 3, and line direct line setting, and 7 position attractions. So you're always working with 4 and 3 because it's positioned your line centers, which is 9-digit code frequency pattern line rotations into your alpha calculation, your delta theta, and your mega line center, and set of communication your clock lines of 9,000 line streams, 444 million line rotation centers, and set location of 4 billion set location line cycles, and high center interference of 944 in a clock line rotation center in seconds per minute, and position location of panel, operation service location to a system, all through triangulation. Okay, down by equation. So how are we doing so far in set location and settings? It's very powerful what we're coming into, right? It's the ground lines, location to ascending the interference. I'm just keeping track of waving line, center line rotations. This is a different skyline. See that location? See that line setting? Right. So look at your room, okay, as a connection to an energy grid. Look at it in line, position, location, centers. Position locations, top lines, 4 line, triangle line, set location settings. Split anomaly, 2-track communications and set positions operation, right? The center communication lines, any atmosphere you go in set location system knows exactly your identification code. It recognizes the frequencies, it recognizes the patterns, it recognizes the arbitrary location setting, and it redirects signals to your system to 7 locations because you're always working with your 7 bodies of water and your 5 atmosphere locations. That will never leave your system locations, all right? So it's always in position location to understand your A, B's, and C's of track communications, okay? So you're always going to have your alphabetical system line calculation setting. So that's going to travel out. Look at it, illuminating, right? It's illuminating from inside me. That's why it's glowing, okay? So recognition line settings as 0 line graph. Now we have 0 line rotations, and then we have 94 line rotation centers in position 944. Eco calculations into its atom to its avatar. Okay, center communications of the sun, the set position of its mode of operation. Okay, so we take the 9 line centers. You guys got to get used to line position of 4 and 4 line direct signals as locations. Now in symbolism, line rotations, you come into this line calculations in setting. Okay, so in that direct signal, the atom line rotation surfaces it to a higher calculation line directions at 2 settings. So center is its position of its moon that opens up its correlation panel and high position of track lines in its communication to its own Hubble of position, location, energy line stream and set location of travels. Now in that center line communication line interference, change position locations of 4, sets lines of high center lines of 3, 7 sets line calculation setting. That's 1 line rotation surface and correlation of direct center and position of operation. Now the operation line signals its set line connections high center of the moon. The moon's surface, its correlation setting, and the ground line of surface position track lines as centers lines position location, the earth line perceptions of correlation and direct signal set locations. Okay, done by equation. So if you look really, really close, you can see the S line center. Okay. 4 track communication lines and high center interference are probes. Now the probe line sets calculation line centers of 0 operation and 0 calculations. 3 lines of 0 lines, position location of past, present, and future operation. Okay. Center calculations is all levels of 2 lines of 2 panels, stream locations of directions. Now directing signals is extremely powerful because now you're centering its line setting and position location to a system, how the tracking communication changes the line center interference and center position location to its operation line surface and track communications. Okay? Done by equation. All right. So remember, just working with the ground lines. Okay, tomorrow we go into the security lines of vowels, which is two central communication or conscious lines. So one line is equal lines of consciousness. Conscious line calculation of the mind. The mind sets line calculation of memory. Memory comes back in set location line settings and position location in line center interference of north and south and east and west and set location lines of coordinates and set location of diamond core line setting. Directing signals lines and position of track lines comes in position location high center interference and position of your sun and communication setting directions. Now directing signals. Inside line calculation setting is the conscious line stream. One line rotation is center positions of operation at two lines of valves in one set location. Now directing line panels, position of track lines, and magnetic force line, streamline calculation to its system. Position locations, one line streamlines, operate the surface line, the atom lines, and molecular structures, directing line centers and high travel communication in three set location of settings. Now, in that set lines comes into zero line rotation, is in position of operation. Okay, done by question. All right, so everything set location in your system is position of cloud lines. Redirect signal lines, center line interference, and travel calculations to its system. Okay, so be aware of everything that happens to you now. Okay, because the ground lines and your conscious stream locations. So you guys are working with the 944. Okay, the center calculation line interference spacing lines working with 744. So 744, okay, equal line calculations into 944. Center communication lines is CPU and line rotations and position locations and setting. Okay, so we come into the metric stream lines into atom lines. Setting lines is straff lines, high center interference, and recognition of time sequence and travel calculations. Cross the signal, rotation surface into the sun. The center lines is communication setting and all direct signal of operation to its surface location. Okay, now the reason why this is set up is understanding the face view of everything. The front view line centers, everything's up, everything's below, everything is side lines, the calculation position of geometric line shapes. The CPU line rotates its surface, ground lines, operation to memory lines of atmosphere location of change lines and stream location to its system. Travel calculation line settings, high position location to two lines, tether and interference, travel communications into all line setting. Now, the travel communication lines is box line, electrical line circuits. That's one box from rotation center and direct signal. Crosses line, stream location, and graph line setting, position of travels. Now, that travels outline rotation, center lines its communications, in position locations, all setting. Sets up its dimensional sail of a solar sail line rotation, color it in. How calculation of the moon line, operation to its motional line rotation to its setting of surface. Setting direct signals, set locations. Done by equation. Pyramids now glowing in gold. Yes, center position track lines. Okay. How are we doing so far? Position locations, Gypsy, all opposite Chris line position locations, high setting, all division locations to a system rotations. Okay, Geneva. Yeah, so what you're seeing is what you need to see, right? You can see my face, it's glowing, right? It's unbelievable how you see these things, location system. Remember, I'm the sun lines, product of sunline communication setting, direct signal. So in position location, there's always cloak and dagger in all formation location. There's a reason why this is here. Okay, why is that in the position locations? Right, because it's a measure count line setting. It directs signal locations from one end to the other end, which is pi. So everything is pi line setting. So direct location setting, direction, platitude line rotations, center line rotations halfway, and then you go to shelf line and rotation center. And that shelf line sets line position location at track lines. That opens all position location and settings and direct signal. Okay. So as you read the signal lines of backline rotation center, each line has a point system and a direct signal to its dimensional line that locks its location system at travel calculations. Okay. The center opposite comes forward. So as it comes forward, it relines, it refactors, and comes back into the sun line of communication setting into its directions. Okay. Which is very powerful. That's what it is through indication. Okay. Remember, you have to see it up close. It's not just a line strip. It's everything through set location of travel lines of portals. So everything portals through line, string lines, the calculation line, position of track lines, and dimensional line interference in set locations. So you got two position location lines. Okay. See how it positions the track lines of communication. See the colors and line change. See the direct signal to its operational line center. So in that direct line center, so we come into this line rotations, and then we cross over. And then we go up position, location, line, setting, position, of operation of surface, right? So your actual room is set up differently as a hologram structure line. It's got to find its balance of its level. Okay, so it's a compass line, center line interference. It's like you putting a picture on the wall and trying to find the level of its water set locations. The same thing with the atom line, but the atom line has to extend the rotation surface to your ground lines and set position of track communications. This is where it comes into electrical lines and infusion, and high calculations use C lanes and set location line setting of directions. Okay, all set position of traction. Okay, now in that line interference, communicates line settings. Sun comes in and rotation line directions in position, location, and operation. Okay, the center calculation line setting high interference. The traffic communicates line directions is main line rotations. Okay, so I'm center position, location, operation line center. This is main position. Sitting track communications. Okay, sitting down lines. Okay, so I'm just giving you information. This is me in direct location setting. Okay, setting and position location of its operation surface. Okay, all this is done through equation line settings to our position of travel settings. Okay, the mechanism of force line, really understand the rotation surface. So really understand the structure lines that your room is connected to hologram line setting. So let's set position, location of parameters and parameter line rotations, directing signal, set position operation, right? Laser directions, laser directions, laser directions, laser directions, laser directions. You're connected to everything in set location line settings, all position to your room and set line position, location, operation. Okay. Now in that line center line interference, you come into this center rotation surface, tries to understand you through ground line rotation setting directions. And that's set line high interference. This is where it comes into pi. Now this indicates line interference. Let's say you get high position location of 15 line settings, and position location of 30 lines, and set location of 60 lines, and position locations into 70 lines, into 80 lines, into 90 lines, into 10 line communication, sending direct signal through clock line rotation. And that direct signal, okay, you have to understand how to use it through pi. 15 minutes through pi, 30 minutes through pi, 60 minutes through pi, 2 hours through pi, 3 hours through pi set locations, directions, all through sending calculations to the room that you're sitting in. And that rotations comes in this line setting and direct signal to its portal communication, to its directions, to its operation surface and set location. Now, it gets more complicated because you have to understand the room that you're in. The portal communication comes in this line system, traffic calculations, and center lines another portal communications that you go through set locations. You travel line setting and high center lines of 3 calculations, right? So if you look really, really close, you can see yourself traveling very, very fast in the room line setting and vortexing through anything calculations. So I'm here, and now I'm here, and now I'm here, all through pi. All direct signals in position location of 12 line settings and signature patterns in direct signal to its portal communications. Okay, and then I'm back in center. Okay, so that's what you guys got to get balanced with. Know exactly where you are in your room lines and correlation setting and direct signal to its atom position location to its hologram stream. Setting direct signals is application to your systems and track communications. So if you change the frequency of your body, it changes the background of color, of light, of travel. Okay, the operation line surface has to recognize the heat signature patterns and direct signal to your set location setting and directions. So you can vortex to anything in set location setting of high set positions, but it's all levels of the ground lines. Surface line rotation, setting position location calculations, right? This is you sitting. Okay, directions. That's you sitting, right? Now in that line center line interference, this is the chair you're sitting on. Okay. Now, truly understand how this all works. You're all calculating modify right away in flux capacitor. See, there's a flux capacitor. There's the wall line. See? What's the flux capacitor view? Is the flux capacitor everything around you. Electrical line walls, center line rotation interference, and track communication hologram setting. Directing cross line streams, directing lines of panels, high calculation streamline position location to its measure. Now, directing line center line interference, you have calculation setting to your torical fields, your oracle field line rotation center, and direct signal and set locations. Now, in that systematic line interference, change the electrical line wires and 3 lines rotation center and direct signal to your ceiling. Center correlation setting, you can have a position location of sunlight communication to all levels and set location of center position. Operation line centers, ground lines, operational wall lines, and streamline calculation setting and direct signal set locations. Okay, very complicated stuff all through grounds. Okay, the conscious line center locations of the brain convergence has to really understand you through ground positions of operation. So center communication line centers opens all communication to your systems. So it travels out in line rotation to your system and travel calculation to all setting and position. Okay, that my equation. So I'm showing you guys have to really understand the holographic structures of you now. How to see everything through laser line settings. So in that center communication line interference, let's go into a profile view. Okay, set locations. Now lines and line interference. Okay, so you go right over left. Okay, and you're crossing line streams right over left in set locations and set position attractions. That's how you see things. The center communication lines is your sun line that sets position attract location of light. Now, position on track lines, the moon's line's in there, but it's the position of the moon is the center calculation setting of a solar line rotation that center your position location of your solar sails. Now, in that direct location, it's a portal communication lines of travel calculation setting and directions. Okay? So that's how you go right over left and left over right through perception. So anything you're looking at in set location lines comes out of its position location and track communication to a system of operation. Okay? So you scan that line setting to the center position. And then it travels in your set positional levels, getting to know you through communication. Okay? Very complicated, right? But truly understand how you create a portal, right? Through your lines of eyes, the eye receptor line setting. So it's all direct application to your system to position attraction. Okay? That's very powerful, isn't it? Isn't it? When you're crossing stream, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? There's the pie, right? So you're in the center line and space in between. Okay? Once you understand the space in between, which is the core, everything has a core, the bullseye. It comes out and communicates with you in all set position location settings. And you're here, right here in line center locations, looking at everything in scan position to its operation. Okay? I know, glowing like crazy. Look at the coffee cup. It's illuminating. Look at my hands. See? Everything's glowing. Right? I'm flushing. My energy lines are changing track lines. It's very complicated what I'm saying to you guys now. But you have to understand the room that you're in changes everything through frequency to emotional line settings. But I'm just showing you how powerful it is to create anything through portal through your eye line settings, so right over left and left over right. So you're creating a portal of a tunnel that's connected to line setting. So once you get into that track communication system, it's all coming into line centers to a black hole. Black hole through an outline rotations. This is a black hole. Black hole is not covered black. Black hole is position of track lines, how to travel through its set locations. Your eye receptors goes this way and crosses this way in set locations. Okay? Everything that's center line is the sun that communicates to its moon into its position location attraction. Okay? So that's how you see through provision. This is you through calculation, setting, and directions. Setting your line communication to a system. Okay? Very powerful set location to your system. Okay? That's how you start seeing things. This is you in set position. Okay? All right? Very powerful. So once you understand that, it creates its own portal communication line setting. Congratulations, you got intelligence coming at you. So in the center position comes at you and basically comes out and scans your system. Scans who you are in center position of operation. Okay? So these are the things you have to look at. Really understand the ground lines of the mind line and streamline and set location to a system. Opens all track communication to your system line settings. It's very complicated stuff now because the thing is, you have to start recognizing your system in all calculations. How this works for you is all levels of inside. The mechanism line center location of travel. Center line rotations, center communication setting, center operational line service locations, or center everything in line rotations to its adaptation surface. All through set location of circle, or anything through center, or anything through zero, right? So that's how you go through line position locations and setting location of perceptions. That's how you see things through its hologram stream. Okay? So, yes, I know it's extremely powerful to set in position and track communication in the system. But I just wanted to show you the power of actions of setting location your eye receptors, how you see things through equation. All right, so tomorrow we go on line rotations and center lines and security. Security position location, the perimeter lines, rotation surface, and track communication, sending direct signal to your sun, indirect line centers to your moon, and operational line center location to its dimensional sail of operation surface. Triangulation line setting sets position of travel calculation setting and direct signals. You have to understand the position of track communications of your moon and how fast it goes through the seconds, minutes of its hour line rotation and center communication setting of direct location. Okay? Very complicated stuff, right? So if you look at line center, you can look at the scan line that detects location system, right? Centers this direct signal to location line centers of box location, right? Centers line center line interference and set location of view and center position. Your body of consciousness looking in scan lines and all set location of 3 lines measures and set location of travel settings. Okay, that's how I see the direct location setting, direct location of the sun and the moon, all through its sail, dimensional sail line rotations. The center communication line center sense position of traction. Okay, it opens all track communications. Center line rotations, you have a plateau that you walk across. Your vortex stream location, your system travels line center high position location is measured. Okay, and then you go in position to the center line. So you understand your 24, 48, 72, and 144 crystal grid. So you cross lines and your vortex, another plateau line interference, XT1000 comes in, scans the line, center line, and position attractions. It has to scan everything because it has to know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it fixes everything. So that's where it starts with. I was going through plateaus and I had so many UFOs coming in line and fixing everything. Whatever you go through, I go through. So it's not a mistake, it's an involve. It communicates line interference of what you do and what you do. So really understand their track communication is line center line interference. So position location is space line. The XT1000 sets position of track lines and travels back in position location to its planet system. That's the equation. Okay? So you have to start recognizing timelines and frequency location in your systems, all through your hologram line set locations. It's very powerful what we're coming into, right? Through conscious line stream locations. So I'm just showing you how to see your line communication of your room is set up locations into a box. This is a box. E equals MC squared. So it's what's inside here evolves everything outside there, which is just reflection. So that's what you're seeing. Your sun is in base, your moon's in base. So your sun never leaves and your moon never leaves. The operation command center stays there. So the only thing that you're seeing of the sun and the moon is just the reflection of what you perceive through your placebo cortex of your cerebral line settings into its cortex location. Okay? So you never, ever, ever taking out the sun and the moon because it's already set in its operation. You can't move it. Okay? So in that set line communication setting, all you're doing is set position to its reflections and getting in position location and projections and how get into light signature patterns into your moon of operational line set location setting to your center of communication, your waves, or anything with high calculations of dilation. Through your compass communication lights and everything through shades and shadows and communication line direct signal and position location and track communications. Okay? Everything is light, everything is dark. Okay? So we all have to understand the center communication or settings from inside positions. That's the only way you can understand your operation of the surface. Okay? But it's very powerful when you come into this line communications. How you see things is how you perceive, okay, your future adaptation of your system. Okay? All through calculations of the sun and the moon. So, it's powerful, isn't it? It's incredible when you see these things through this application of your systems, the settings. Right? Memento. See? Charger. Without charger, you can't continue on a computer, right? So there's no difference with you and your avatar. Your avatar has to be recharged where it needs to sleep. And when it sleeps, it picks up more energy line graph location to streamlines instead of location to a system. So this is the importance that we all have to understand how to use it through provision, right? This helps you in all ways and forms to really get you in your calculations, set location to your settings, operation to the surface, right? So we all have to understand how it works for us, okay? Not against us, okay? So we all have to understand how to communicate to that level, okay, of communication to its setting and direct system, okay? Look, it's glowing. So if you glow inside, you're in set location to your settings. That's how this all works. It set positions to your system, okay? So I really want you to recognize where you are, your complacements of your system. So try to see yourself in the living room line settings of your own command centers. Know exactly what the living room is. Know exactly what the kitchen is. Know exactly what the bathroom is. It's all set location in your system. You have to start seeing things in a holographic setting, okay? I showed you in so many powerful ways how you see yourself. Provisions, right? Right over left, left over right. So it's across the stream. All right? And then okay, so everything levitates, everything flies. So we all have to understand how to connect to that set location of the systems of track communication to its settings. Okay, so but I think it's very powerful what we come into, right? All through scanning. This is all levels of scan line settings. Know where you are in location you're setting to your mind, right? Your mind surfaces on so many dimensional lines of streams, guys. You have to recognize what you're doing through your conscious location system, right? If I'm tracking communication line centers locations, so this is a computer in a computer, right? So I'm going to set position attractions. Okay, so this is all on communications system, right? That's the computer, right? Now you're going to see me inside the computer line frame. Now, when you look at the computer line frame, you're going to see me come out. So what we're going to do is I set position location line interference and direct signal to position location track lines, setting direct signal. Okay, so that's me in the frame line, right? Now in that line interference, I'm going to set the keyboards, high calculation of space bar and point system locations into all of the console lines, navigation line center location to a system and track communications, right? Now in that line interference, there's a separation there. You know why there's a separation there? Because it has to have a rotation spin, okay? If you don't have a rotation spin, you're in a computer frame. To understand the rotation is to understand you through position of track communications to its line centers of track calculation out through equation. Okay? So in that set line interference, don't look at this, look at me. You'll see me come out of frame. Okay? Get in line centers, get right over left, left over right. Get in provisional locations of what you're seeing through calculations. Do not look at me and set locations, all right? Until you understand what you're looking at. Don't look at this, look at me, okay? So I'm always behind everything. So you don't look at a wall, you look through the wall. So in that center of communication setting and direct signal. So I'm gonna go forward, okay? All right, so I want you to get the balance with your eyes, get in the perception location line settings. Now I want you to see me. You should see me popping out of the frame of the computer. Getting balance. It takes seconds, minutes, and all line rotations. Then you find the clarity, then you find the lacing lines, then you find the correlations of balance at location in your system. All right. Okay, see the illumination graph line, see? See the calculation settings? See the avatar coming out? See? The more you look, the more you see. And the more you understand, the more light you see, right? See, now that seeing this is come out and this is over here now. See, the actual picture frame is over here. It's vortex in 3 line settings and set locations. Now it's back in location. See? That's how this works. That's the only way you can understand anything through travel location of vortex line setting. All three location system of looking at your self-line communications of a picture frame and a computer line settings adaptation system. Okay? So it's all set up as some track lines. So you're always seeing this position location setting. Okay? And then it comes back through the sun. It has to come back to the sun through the moon. Okay? So now you created a hologram line, which is a bubble. So that bubble sets line calculation setting in one line rotation, center position location that changed the equal line calculation setting, how you see from above and how you see from below. Below is your Earth. Okay, and above is your space line and set locations. Okay? So amazing, isn't it? We understand how to see line positions through your receptor line position of track communications system. I know you guys have a lot of questions on that level, but I just wanted to show you how you have to really get into your realities now. You know, you have to really understand how to look at things. If I'm looking at this optical line stream, okay, it's a lamp, but the way it's shaped is amazing. So it has position track communications and setting, has a lacing line rotation. It's really interesting. Comes up, it goes down, crosses lines, in center position to its operation center, line rotation to its surface. Okay? So understand what it is to how set locations. I got two lines. Lacing line communications at two line rotations. Okay. So in that direct locations, you have to learn how to communicate with first, which is the center position. You look at the center position, which is space and center. Okay, everything has a space line center of space. So the direct location system, when you're looking at things, this is how it works. You scan top, you scan bottom, you go in the center. Okay. So in that line interference, it comes in position location of track lines. Once you send the recognition time sequence, you cross over in set positions of operation. Okay. So when you're crossing the line settings in high stream line interference, you cross line position of streamlines, indirect location of your eye lines, in set location of your system, and travel communication. Okay, that's how you start to see things. And that line center line interference has its correlation line in directions. Center position location to its operation is the center line calculation to its intelligence that comes in and scans you in set position of operation. Okay. Center position location is its intelligence. The center line rotations comes into its own sun that comes at you in direct signal position location attraction. Okay. So everything intelligence has its own sun, has its own moon, has to have its own light, has to have its own dark. It has its own direct location of travel settings, guys. But once you understand what you're seeing in track communication, it's extremely powerful. Crossing signals is extremely important when you get in your position location, your laser line settings. So it's important you understand how to see things. Okay? So in that position location, let's go through profile. Okay, this is you, right? This is you. Still there, right? Okay, now if you look really close, you can see the ground. See how I created a ground through a hologram line? See, it's walking its surface now, right? See it? See the holographic line? You see the blue lines, that location lines? I set up a holographic line so it can cross over. Now, if you look at me, you'll start seeing it walking. Okay? So the level of communication is truly to understand how to see these things through its conscious line setting, because it's all connected to the verbose location in your system, how it calculates and modifies everything through track communication in your systems, through tractions. All right, so in position locations, you set this line connection. Right? I don't need to set up a center graph lines of a road. It's already set location of its light because I've already traveled through it. So traveling through location system is already set position of travel. It's set position to its operation. Okay, and then I go back to the planet center. Whatever planet that I'm on a rotation through its surface. Right? So in that position locations, online setting, again, the X3000 comes out, knows exactly what you're doing. It always scans your system in center position. Okay, and it scans the ground lines, high center of interference at travel calculation, setting position of operation. Okay, you've got to go beyond. That's the only way you're going to see anything in that set location system. Stop seeing things in front, start seeing things in back. So instead of seeing the front, try to see the back. Okay, try to see the sides, understand positions. So instead of seeing this, you see this. 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 See? You're seeing in all calculations to its own geometric lines of travel communications. All through set locations, right? The geometry line design is really understanding you through set location lines. So you have one layer, in set location is 2 layer, right? 3 layer, in position location of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that's 1 digital layer. That's 2 digital layers. That's 3 digital layers. And that's 4 digital layers. Okay? All through a graph screen, right? But it's a hologram. So the metric streamline calculation setting, everything track communicates its system in travel settings and directions, right? Platitudes, its line position location to its own, right? It creates everything on its own line setting. It creates everything on its own line setting. Okay? It creates everything on its own line setting location to its system. Okay? It has to. Okay? Because it knows what it's doing. But do you understand what it's doing? See, when you start to see these things, you start to recognize the communication to a system. Everything through letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, this is going to blow you away, has its own sun, has its own moon. Because you're communicating through its intelligence of its own dimensional space, which means it's not a number. It never is a number. It's nothing but a number. It's everything of, everything it wants to be. So it can be the sun in communication to its system. Okay? It could be the moon to track communication to its settings. Okay? It could be a planet in line rotation to its system. Okay? Or it can be a crop circle line rotation to its surface. Okay? So I'm just showing you so many different ways how you can have a better view of everything that you see around you. Turn it into something miraculous in set position locations. So communicate with it first, and it shows you through travel of what it creates on its own. Okay? Because you have to get a friendship, relationship, and a collaboration with everything that you perceive through seeing, through a direct eye line. Okay? To set location your systems. Okay? All through hologram. Because that's how the mind sees everything through adaptation of surface. All through hologram. Okay? Okay, so if you get calculation setting, this is 1, right? It's traveling, see? It wants to travel, right? So understanding travel is understanding its set locations. Still there, right? So in center communications, when you set position of track lines, the 1 is up here now, the center positions, but it's still there, right? Set position location of 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so you got 5 line center location setting. So what are you doing through the ones? You're setting up position locations to a compound and direct signal to its set locations. Okay. Center direct line centers is lacing lines, dimensional door lines, rotation surface, understanding cloud lines. These are dimensional doors, lock sequence location to settings. Schematic lines, high center interference, and travel communications, indirect signal to its location. Right? So it's all about understanding what you see in the center positions. Center positions is the space above and the space below. So everything has its earth and everything has its space and magnetic line position location attraction. Okay? It's what's in between the center is the operation of everything to its position location of travel setting, position of calculation. Okay? So hopefully that helps you out in all ways and forms. Okay. And that line center line interference, we'll get into securities and perimeter line interference and 2 valves in line calculation and mind of consciousness. All right. See you soon. Adios. You.